Emotional detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means you stopped caring, that you became cold, distant, indifferent. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Real emotional detachment doesn't happen when the pain disappears. It happens when you finally understand that chasing someone who willingly walks away slowly destroys your self-respect. And once that realization hits, something inside you changes. You stop explaining. You stop proving your worth. You stop begging for attention that should have been given freely. And strangely, that's the moment the entire dynamic begins to shift. Welcome to the Absence Protocol, where we explore the hidden psychology of breakups, emotional detachment, and human behavior. And today, we're breaking down the brutal truth about emotional detachment. Breakups rarely hurt because of love alone. They hurt because of something more psychological: attachment. Your brain becomes addicted to a person, not just their presence, but the emotional pattern they created, the messages, the attention, the validation. Your brain begins expecting those rewards, and when they disappear, the mind reacts the same way it reacts to withdrawal: restlessness, obsessive thinking, endless what-if questions. You replay memories, you analyze their last message, you search for hidden meanings in silence, and during this phase, most people make the same mistake. They chase, they text again, they try to explain themselves, they try to prove their value. But psychologically, every attempt to chase only strengthens the imbalance, because the person who needs reassurance automatically loses emotional leverage. The relationship stops being equal, and slowly, one person begins to hold all the power. Here's the strange psychological truth about relationships. People rarely value what feels permanently available. It's not cruelty, it's human nature. When someone knows they can lose you, your presence gains weight. But when someone believes you will always stay, your value becomes predictable, familiar, safe. And the human brain often confuses safe with replaceable. This is why emotional detachment feels so powerful, not because it punishes the other person, but because it removes certainty. Suddenly, you're no longer reacting to their silence. You're no longer chasing their approval. And when that pattern disappears, the psychological dynamic begins to reverse, because uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity brings attention back. Something subtle happens when you stop chasing someone. At first, they may not notice. Life continues, days pass, silence remains, but then something unexpected begins to surface. Questions. Why haven't they reached out? Why did they stop reacting? Why did they disappear so easily? This isn't about revenge, it's about human perception. When your emotional energy disappears, people suddenly become aware of the space you filled. And absence creates reflection. The conversations, the attention, the emotional safety they once had. All of it becomes visible, only after it's gone. This is the irony of emotional detachment. People rarely recognize your value while you're trying to prove it, but they begin noticing it when you stop. The moment emotional detachment truly begins is when your focus returns to yourself, not to prove something, not to make them jealous, but because your life no longer revolves around their reactions. You start sleeping better, your thoughts become quieter. You begin investing energy in things that existed before the relationship: your goals, your interests, your growth, and slowly, the person who once controlled your emotional state loses that influence. Their silence no longer dictates your mood. Their approval no longer defines your value. And psychologically, that's when the balance shifts, because the person who can walk away peacefully always holds the deepest power. Eventually, a realization appears, not suddenly, but gradually. You begin seeing the relationship more clearly, not through nostalgia, not through longing, but through perspective. You remember the moments when your needs were ignored, the times you over-explained yourself, the nights you waited for a message that never came, and something inside you shifts. Not anger, not resentment, just understanding. You realize love should never require constant proof of your worth. Real connection doesn't force you to shrink your dignity, and once that awareness settles in, going back becomes psychologically impossible. Because detachment isn't about losing someone, it's about rediscovering the parts of yourself you abandoned. By this point, something fundamental has changed. You no longer measure your worth through someone else's attention. You understand that emotional independence is not coldness, it's stability. You can still care about people. You can still love deeply, but you no longer abandon yourself to keep someone close. And that internal shift changes every future relationship. Because the next time someone threatens to walk away, you won't panic, you won't chase. You'll simply observe and decide whether their presence truly deserves your energy. This is the real purpose of emotional detachment, not isolation, but emotional sovereignty. In the end, emotional detachment is not about them at all. It's about you, your boundaries, your peace, your willingness to walk away from situations that slowly erode your self-respect. Some people will return when they feel your absence, others won't, but that outcome becomes irrelevant. Because the real victory isn't getting someone back. The real victory is becoming someone who no longer needs to chase love. And once you reach that place, something fascinating happens. The people who enter your life next sense it immediately. They feel the calm, the self-respect, the quiet emotional stability. And relationships built from that foundation don't require desperation to survive. Because the strongest connection two people can share is the freedom to walk away and still choose to stay.